I started to travel around the world and be an evangelist of Archicad.
Welcome to the Graphisoft Talk podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Hildebrandt, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Tibor Szolnoki, who is based in the Budapest office. So, Tibor, or Tibi, as we affectionately call you, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Hello, everyone.
So, for my first question today, Tibi, I want to look into where you started your journey. What were you passionate about when you were in school? What did you do as part of your university studies? What were the things that inspired you before you began your career at Graphisoft?
All right, then I have to go back in history quite back, actually. So there was at that time we were living behind the Iron Curtain, and there were really not that many career paths that you could take. So the university that you have chosen already defined your future career. And I was always interested in drawings and art because my father was collecting paintings. But on the other hand, I was attending a grammar school, which was one of the highest rated grammar school in terms of maths and physics and these kind of things. So I was kind of looking for something where I could use my math skills, but also artistic skills. So the choice was quite obvious to go for architecture, and that's why I joined the Technical University of Budapest, the Faculty of Architecture. It was quite a long time ago, I have to admit. And it was an interesting journey because at that time it was the transition from drawing-based architectural workflows to CAD-based workflows, and which is really interesting. And I was at the fourth year when BIM or Archicad became available for many people, also for the universities. And that's how I met Archicad. That's how I was into this digital virtual building environment, and that's the beginning of my career. So anyways, after the university, I was spending some time there as a PhD student. I was also teaching many subjects, GDL, for instance. So GDL stands for Geometrical Description Language. That's the basis of our libraries. And well, quite soon I realized that I liked the artistic part of the practice, but the ratio between being creative versus all the other stuff, which is not so creative and typically it's quite boring. So it's like 5% creativity and maybe 95% all the other stuff. So anyway, I really liked enjoying working with these digital technologies, which was quite new at that time, and I decided to join Graphisoft, and I started my career as a GDL developer. So that was the beginning of my journey, and this was 27 years ago.
So 27 years, that's quite a long time. So like many others at Graphisoft, you began your career as an architect. You've talked about going through university, studying for your PhD and even lecturing. But did you ever get to practice at all? Are there any projects in Budapest or in Hungary that you have worked on at all?
Absolutely, there are some. One of them is actually our cottage at Lake Balaton. Lake Balaton so Hungary is a landlocked country, so we don't have any seas or oceans, but there's this big lake, and that's where my family always wanted to have a cottage. And actually that was one of my first projects, but I was also involved in a couple of other projects. I was working with other architects, and that part I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed being in a team, working with other creative minds and also structural engineers and so on. So there are like 3 or 4 buildings that I've been involved with, but it was always very hectic because I was attending the PhD courses and I was doing these architectural design, freelance studio in my spare time. So it was quite intense.
Does everyone in Graphisoft have a land holding up at Lake Balaton? Every person I seem to speak to goes there quite frequently. It's almost like a holiday destination for all of the Graphisoft team. Is it a place that all Hungarians love, or is it just something that they love, or is it something that other people around Europe actually enjoy as well?
It is for Hungarians. It's very personal because almost every family has some kind of relation to Lake Balaton. And it's just, you mentioned that next week we are going for an offsite with the leadership of Graphisoft. And guess what? This will be at Balatonfüred, which is one of the biggest cities around Lake Balaton. It's always fun. And there's also great vineyards around the region. So there's great wines, great foods. And also before the changing of the system, so when we were living behind the Iron Curtain, this was the place where Eastern Germans and Western Germans could meet. So it was also like a melting pot of different nations.
That's a really interesting piece of history for those of us that live in the Southern Hemisphere and weren't aware of what was going on during those challenging times. And it's sad to say that, in all the times that I've come to visit Hungary, or more specifically Budapest, and, the only time I've actually been into Budapest is to visit you guys at Graphisoft, it's never been part of my itinerary, sadly. So maybe I need to make that part of my itinerary in one of my future trips that I make over there.
So if you come to Ignite conference in October, you should do that. You should try, reserve some days.
All right, so now I'm going to have to put that on your agenda for when I get over there. You're going to have to take me to your cottage up on Lake Balaton. Now, moving on to, I guess, your career journey, you've talked a lot about your passion for GDL at the time when you were going through university, and then the challenges that you face in trying to figure out what side of architecture you're really driven and passionate about. What was it that drove your decision to shift from architecture to working in software, working with Graphisoft? And, it's not a short journey, it's quite a long journey. So, it'd be great to possibly break that up into a couple of different sections from our conversation today. But, when did you start at Graphisoft, and why did you actually decide to go over there?
Yeah, and that was a very emotional part of my life, and I can see it also when there are many new trainees joining Graphisoft, and I can always feel this sort of, it's one of the biggest decisions in your life, whether you want to go with your aspiration, being an architect, being an artist, make great buildings and leave something to the generations behind you, or do what gives you inspiration, dive into technology, explore what is new, where the industry is going, and maybe also help other architects. And this is a big decision. And at Graphisoft, and the reason why I have decided to go for Graphisoft, because here I could do both almost. So my job is quite creative. Even at GDL times, I was quite creative in creating furniture objects and any GDL stuff. But also now in this product marketing team, the way how you present things, your PowerPoint, the quality of your PowerPoint presentations, the way how you create a video or how you talk about the product, that's also sort of creative, and that I'm using my architectural mind. But yes, technology was always something that it was inspiring me, and that time, 27 years ago, this was really an interesting decade for the technology and architecture. So that was the time when CAD became mainstream, but also already BIM became visible with Archicad. So it was really, really interesting. And I think one of the main reasons why I decided to go for Graphisoft is the people here. I already knew some of my colleagues were working here. They were very smart people. Some of them are still working here, and I think that was the main reason to have like a second home, a second family where I could belong to.
So what was your role when you first started at Graphisoft 27 years ago?
That was actually GDL development, so library part development. So I was just doing core GDL scripting, creating library parts. I recall that I started with some chair and other furniture objects, which I really enjoyed doing. And I could learn a lot from my colleagues who were already very experienced. But very soon I became the leader of the GDL team, which was at that time very small, like we were 3 altogether. And that was another learning, like how you could use technology to to make your work more effective. So how you could use, for example, one of the technologies that we were using very actively is the macros. I don't know if you are into GDL, the macros is like hot link modules or something that you can reuse. And this technology was very actively used in the core Graphisoft library because that's the only way we could do the testing faster and make sure that whatever we implemented in one object is implemented in the same way in another object. And so this kind of mindset switch, that from just being creative, also consider the technology and also all these rules and regulations and standards that we have here. That was an interesting shift in my thinking. And as a leader of the GDL team, I had to put lots of focus on how to use new technologies and and optimize our workflows.
So beginning your journey in the GDL department, I guess you could say, at Graphisoft, and then obviously into management, we could have this exciting conversation, I think, all around, what objects you actually created at the time. But we could probably go on for hours about that. But I've got to guess a key question is, are there any library parts that you created from 27 years ago that still exist in the software today?
I could still see those objects, but they have been completely rewritten because, technology is changing, requirements are changing. So for example, one of the things that we didn't have to deal with at that time, all these additional parameters that are not affecting the modeling, but affecting all the data, the parameters that you can list and use for all kind of calculations, cost and manufacture and all the other stuff. And of course, we didn't have graphical interface at that time, which is a great thing. I really enjoy the new library parts that you can have this visual graphical feedback. So we didn't have that. And because of all these new technologies, almost the entire library has been rewritten at least 3 times, if not more than that.
So I feel like we've just touched on the beginning of your long journey there at Graphisoft, in terms of beginning with your role in the GDL team through to managing it. Can we go through the steps that you've taken and additional roles that you've taken on your journey to where you are today? Because I know, I've got a great photo. The funny thing was, I pulled it up before our chat today. It was from when I visited your office back in 2016. And you, along with some of your colleagues, got a nice blue T-shirt from me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
at the time. So I think the actual photo was back in 2016, and it was at the time you were working with Greg Kimethi, I think. I think it was in the implementation team, or something like that. But for everyone that's watching, I guess it'd be great to learn or explain your journey that you've had so far, and then also up into your current role today.
Like I've said, I've been working for Graphisoft for 27 years, so you might be surprised by this fact. But if you're watching this podcast, you have already met some of my colleagues who are longer than me with this company. And the reason for this is that it's almost like every 3 or 4 years you're changing career, almost like you're working for a new company. And that this is also something that I like about Graphisoft. So yeah, okay, so I studied as a GDL developer, then I took the role of GDL team leader, and then I was a release manager responsible for making sure that all those components are coming together for the alpha, for the beta, and for the final release. It was kind of interesting, but it was pretty far from my artistic mindset. So I was happy to take on the role of a product manager. And I was doing that role for quite a long time, but what we actually did in that position was changing all the time. So initially it was more closer to what I'm doing now. So communicating about the product, defining the values, communicating the value propositions, and so on. But there was also another thing happening with that role. I started to travel around the world and be an evangelist of Archicad. And that was quite an intense and also very interesting time of my life. So I've been to Australia as well, into New Zealand, and altogether 62 countries I have visited with Graphisoft, which is, looking back at this time, it was quite extensive. But I really enjoyed it, and the most beneficial part of this was that I could actually meet real customers and understand their needs. And part of my job was to communicate these customer feedbacks back to the development team. And then this customer success team was formed under Greg Maddy, and I joined that team, and I had many roles there. One of them was related to trainings, the Learn team. So I was one of the founders of the Learn team, and working on training materials, educational materials, courses, and so on. And then I slightly changed my focus. This other team was called Technical Marketing Team. So we were closely focusing on developing technical-related, product-related video and education and training materials for the customers. And then became this big change when I moved from the customer success team to the product team. And this was like, I don't know, 2.5 years ago. So this new team is called Product Marketing, and this is the team that I'm leading now.
So some quick fire questions, I guess. So in your role as the director of product marketing, how many people would you have in your team? What does the role entail? And what would be a typical week for you at Graphisoft in terms of the types of typical tasks that you would undertake?
Yep. So it's a relatively small team, but it's growing. So altogether, there are 4 of us in this team, and also a new trainee will join next week. So I'm very excited about that. So the team is growing. It's a global team, so we are responsible for globally positioning the product. That's our core focus. But if I want, so sometimes people are asking me what I'm doing, and sometimes I tend to call ourselves an information hub. Definitely internally it's an information hub. So if you think about a triangle where there is product, marketing, and sales, we are in the middle of the triangle, and we are distributing information between these three teams. But in terms of organization, we belong to the product team, which I think is good because we have first-hand information about the upcoming products, the product plans, the roadmap, and we could also influence that based on the feedback that we receive from the customers. But in short, our main focus is value propositions, meaning that in layman's terms explain why you should choose Archicad, why you should choose Graphisoft, how we are different from the competition, what are your benefits as a customer if you decide to go with us. And of course, it also involves competitive analysis, We are also doing presentations. So if you come to the Ignite conference in October, me and my colleagues, we will be on stage and showing you all the great things that are coming in 2025 and 2026. So it's a very diverse and versatile role. I like it, but it also requires flexibility. You never know that you wake up on a regular work day, and you don't know what's going to happen with you during that day, what kind of task or questions you will receive, and you should be able to react to any of these questions.
It would be great to learn more, I guess, about your role and how you fit into the way in which new features are developed within Archicad. We've heard in previous interviews conversations with the product team about how they interact with users. People will be aware through Graphisoft community that there's now the public roadmap. There's also the wish list that's now active, where users can contribute to putting forward wishes of features and functionality that they'd like to see in Archicad. There's also other programs that Graphisoft run, like the Insiders program, where insiders also provide feedback to the product team as well. So it'd be really great to understand, I guess, the role that you and your team play in I guess, capturing the information and understanding what the needs are of the user community and how you contribute to that feature list.
Yeah, I don't want to go into these other more structured ways of collecting information. I think my colleagues already explained that. So yeah, we have roadmap, we have the wish list and all that. What I really enjoy, and this is the most inspiring part of my role at Graphisoft, that I could meet actual customers at trade shows, at office visits. Sometimes they come to Graphisoft. Sometimes we go to the university and make lectures. We are also involved in education. So this is our special skill at the product marketing team, that we can actually listen to customers in these face-to-face conversations and collect information. And also we are very actively presenting the upcoming products. So I just returned from the Czech Republic in Jihlava, where every year there is a great user event. This is the biggest user event of the year, and obviously there are nice breweries and beer and so on. But what makes it special that this is a reoccurring event. So it's been going on for many years, and these are very loyal customers, and you can very openly, over a beer or over a soda or whatever, you can just talk to each other and really share information, share your thoughts, share your ideas openly. And these are the most honest and most influential feedback that we could get. And obviously we are always feeding it back to the product team. But yeah, the reason I mentioned this, because that's something that the COVID really ruined. So for many years we didn't travel, we didn't have live events, and that's why I'm very happy that these live events are returning. Also, there are many trade shows where we are actively talking to customers and prospects. So yeah, I think we are going back to the normal ways of talking to customers.
What you talk about, I guess, is what I've really enjoyed with my relationship with Graphisoft over the years, in terms of the way in which we're able to communicate with you guys and share the challenges and pains that we're facing in our companies and how we're working. Now, Archicad 29 will be released shortly. It's currently in the beta testing phase, and that's depending upon when you're watching this. It may be in the technical preview phase when you're watching this, in which case, jump on the website and register to be able to have access to the technical preview and be able to test the project or test out the new release and the new software features. Could you give us an example of where customer feedback and use cases have influenced how a specific feature has been implemented, or even a marketing campaign or product launch that has been put forward because of a conversation with a client?
Yeah. So this is actually a heavily user-wished focused version. So Archicad 29 will be focusing on, as we call it, the quality of life improvements, meaning that Archicad is already a very mature, established BIM product. I would say this is one of the most extensively used and most capable BIM product for architects. So obviously, even now, even with 28, you could design any kind of buildings and do all the modeling documentation. But what is always a question is how fluently, how easily, how enjoyable way you can do that. And that was one of the focus of this year. Listening to customers, understanding what are those hiccups in the workflow, what are those areas where you have to use workarounds, what are those activities that you're doing a million times a day when you're designing a building, and how we could reduce the number of clicks, how you can make it more fluent. So this is the focus of this version. The motto is best design experience, and I think it describes very well what was in the focus. Just to give you one example, how you rotate an element. I also remember this from my architectural practice. Sometimes you just put a library part somewhere in the building and then you start rotating it because you want to arrange your tables, your chairs, whatever. And it doesn't look like a very difficult things to do, and actually Archicad is quite flexible in doing this. You can do it with your mouse, you can do it with shortcuts, with many ways, but yeah, so we created an even faster way in Archicad 29 to do that. And this is just one example of these quality of life improvements that are coming.
I think it's a great outcome to see the focus shift to meeting some of the long-term wishes of existing users with this new release. And it's great to see that focus and energy being applied to the software. Now, taking, I guess, a shift to the future or past this existing release or this new release that is in the process of being fully released, because you're spending so much time talking to customers, attending conferences, seeing presentations from people and talking about all of the kind of cutting edge stuff that they're doing, what are the major trends that you're seeing in the industry from a BIM and a digital perspective? Where do you see the future in these tools, and what are the types of things that architectural practices are going to be doing in the near to distant future?
Yeah, these are interesting times to live if you're in the AEC industry. I really believe that. It sounds like, you could tell this in every decade, but this decade is really special because there are so many technologies became mature and available for the architects as well, and these are heavily influencing how buildings will be designed in the future. So maybe I can elaborate on some of these trends. So obviously one is AI. I wanted to postpone this pronouncing this word in this conversation because everybody's talking about AI, and there is already some people are frustrated talking about hot air about something which not necessarily affecting their daily production of design, but actually now I believe that AI is changing the way buildings are designed and built, and this will also be visible in our 2025 release in October. So there is a solution which will be integrated into Archicad. This is called AI Assistant. We announced this early January at BAU in Germany, And now, after heavy testing and implementing, it's going to be something that the architects could actually use in their daily work. We can talk about it later, what's included in that, but the reason why I'm mentioning AI is that this is something that we just couldn't avoid. So majority of these trade shows and conferences that I'm visiting, there's always a breakout session about, you know, AI influenced workflows. So yeah, this is an important thing also for the Nemetschek company. There is another one, and this is something that I would say that this is the most challenging part for Graphisoft, and this is a digital platform where all the stakeholders, all the different disciplines could come together and work in a collaborative way. Obviously, we have BIM Cloud, you all know that, but I'm talking about something more fundamental, a digital platform where there are 5 formats or, you know, data formats that everybody could access without limitation. A place which is safe, where all your data is stored in a safe way, access rights are controlled, and regardless of which company's products you're using, you can still access it and work with other stakeholders. And obviously, some of our competitors have an advantage here. I don't want to name them, but they already built such a platform. At Nemetschek, we have great potential because we have a solution set with which we can cover the end-to-end workflow. The only thing that I think we're still lacking is a group-level digital platform where all the Nemetschek products and also other solutions can come together and work fluently. So this is something that we are actively working with the Nemetschek headquarters and other sister brands at Graphisoft, but we are also developing our BIM Cloud platform, which is a quite capable BIM collaboration platform, and we are also committed to Open BIM and allowing people to work with the best of breed local products. So these are two trends. Yeah, okay. So go ahead.
I've always thought that Nemetschek has, you know, they always seem to acquire these best-in-breed softwares, but it's always been kind of, they've always been kept almost siloed in many ways. And over the last few years, I've started to see some integrations occur, you know, in terms of collaborations between the various companies. But I can only get more and more excited to see stronger collaborations between the Graphisoft, sorry, the Nemetschek group of companies, because if all of those tools could connect together a lot more seamlessly, I can imagine how much stronger Nemetschek as a group would become. So, you know, I'm looking forward to next, you know, 3, 5, 10 years to see what integrations become available now that the vision is, I guess, put in place. And it'd be great to learn more as it becomes publicly available knowledge.
Yeah, no, I mean, just so these were 2 trends, but actually there is 1 more or 2 more trends that are also just as well important, and I want to mention them. So one of them is obviously sustainability and, you know, carbon reduction and creating buildings that are more sustainable and better performing. So that's a very important trend. It's not just a trend, but it's actually a requirement from many governments. So obviously we are supporting that, but also closely connected to this, there's something that we realized, that you can make these kind of decisions, that how your building will perform, how your building will be usable for the tenants. You can make those decisions better in the early design phase, in the early conceptual design phase, when details are not so elaborate, so you can still make big decisions. You can even rotate your buildings 90 degrees if you wish for, I don't know, for sun studies or whatever reasons. So obviously this is a big trend, and that's one of the focus of our 2025 product development. We made an announcement. It was a really big announcement at the AIA show in Boston 2 weeks ago, where we announced our so-called design intelligence strategy. This will drive our design products development in the upcoming years. And an important component of this is this early conceptual design solution or platform, which we called Project Aurora. So this is not a final product yet, but we already have a working solution that we could show to the customers at our Ignite conference. And the idea of this is that let's involve all the stakeholders, even the property developers, urban developers, and all the other important influencers early on in a conceptual model, which is later on connected to the detailed BIM, which is generated in Archicad, and have a continuous iteration cycle, which is supported by data, which is supported by analysis, AI, if you will, and that way we can have a completely newer, more effective architectural design workflow.
So having seen a preliminary presentation of Aurora recently, I have to admit I am excited to see the potential for that solution and where it could go in the future and where it could plug into, the processes that I have in place and where it could work. So there'll be something to keep an eye on over the next few years. Now, this question's obviously one of the questions that, for those that have watched our previous episodes, it's a question I asked all of the guests. Now, for you, having been part of Graphisoft for 27 years, having performed various roles, not just, a lot of it hasn't just been in product stuff. You have been in development with GDL. You've been part of kind of shaping Archicad in various ways. But what is your favorite feature in Archicad?
I like this question, actually. I was thinking about this, and it might be surprising, but my answer is super simple. You could almost guess it. This is the most basic feature in Archicad. This is something that have been there from the very beginning. So if I have to explain why Archicad is the most flexible, most enjoyable BIM solution, I would mention this feature, which is the wall tool, the most basic architectural component. Because on this wall tool, I could explain why Archicad modeling solution and documentation solution is better than the competition. If you just think about the wall tool, what you could do with this, you could tilt it, you could bend it, you could assign profiles, you could put a window, you could put a door. Even if there is a window, you could tilt it, you could curve it and tilt it. You could assign data to it. You can have different layers to it and highly detailed sections, floor plans. Plus, on top of that, you could use all the other nice Archicad features, the tracker, the editing in perspective mode, and so on, syringe, pipettes, all the other nice stuff that characterize Archicad. So yeah, I would mention the wall tool, and I could see during my journeys I visited quite many offices at different level of BIM implementation. There was a very big office, I don't name them, who were using happily Archicad entirely for 2D. And their favorite feature was the wall tool, because with the wall tool on the floor plan, you could have all these nice intersections, all the hatches, the fills, the components, the nice details with the windows when you place them. So yeah, even for 2D, wall tool is a great solution. But I highly encourage you to use it in 3D and not just on the floor
plan. I cringe on my seat when you say that they get the most out of Archicad in 2D. I look back on my journey and I think I used AutoCAD for a period of 12 months when I started in my first role at Fulton Trotter. And at the time, I'd learnt how to use Archicad as a student, and it was painful to have to change things when things changed in 2D. So I'm hoping that was some time ago, and I'm hoping that practice now sees the benefits of all the other features that Archicad and BIM has to offer. Now, another kind of question for you that I've asked all of the guests that I've had on as part of this series is to gain an insight in relation to software development. So Archicad users out there gain a stronger understanding of what the process of software development looks like and the different perspectives of the team members from within Graphisoft as to, what software development means to them. Would you have any insights that you could share with relation to your views on something that Archicad users could benefit in understanding in the process of how software is developed?
Yeah, actually, I'm probably not the right guy to talk about the software development process anymore, because I'm closer to sales, marketing, and the customers than the actual software development. But maybe I can pick an interesting area which I think will characterize how we develop the software in the future, and that is AI. Because with this AI assistant and AI visualizers, what we have realized that you just cannot keep this yearly development cycle with these technologies. These are so rapidly changing, for one, and for two, you need a database on which you could train. And honestly, this database best developed by our customers on their own project. So this will be interesting to see how we can work together with our customers on these AI technologies, how we can have a more agile release of AI agents, different versions of the AI agents, the database behind that, also the security and the safety. So this requires a totally different mindset in development. So these are sort of independently happening from Archicad, yet it's still closely integrated into Archicad, because the AI assistant chat interface is closely integrated into Archicad. So this is one area which is quite interesting, and the other one is obviously these cloud-based solutions. So we mentioned Project Aurora. This will be a web and cloud-based solution, which again doesn't have or I assume will not have a yearly release cycle. It will have a continuous development. So for that, we require a much more agile way of thinking, a more closer connection to the customers, instant feedback, instant fixing of the bugs. So these are very exciting times. On the other hand, it's super complex, because we have these existing products that are on a C++ code base, but then we have cloud, then we have AI, then we have web, then we have all the other technologies that we have to support, not to mention BIMX on iOS, Apple Vision Pro, and all the other stuff. So you could imagine that it's a super complex ecosystem, and I highly appreciate the work of the product people who make it work. I feel lucky that I'm not closely involved in that part, in the technological part. I more enjoy being with customers and talking about the nice features that are coming.
So my last question for our interview today, Tibi, and for me this is the most exciting one for me personally, because I enjoy to learn more about people and their hobbies and what excites them, and I'm hoping that it also is of interest to the people that listen to us today. Can you share with us today, some of the hobbies that you have outside of your time at Graphisoft, in terms of, what do you get up to when you're not in the office?
Yeah, actually I have maybe more than one. So first of all, I have a dog, Bonnie. Bonnie is a Hungarian Vizsla. It's a bird dog, a hunting dog, very active, very agile. So you have to take her to a walk at least 2 times a day. So altogether, that's 2.5 hours of walking every day, typically outside. So the hobby is a kind of personal, but watching the environment changing throughout the seasons. In Hungary, we are lucky because we have 4 seasons. Now, slightly disappearing. Some of these seasons are disappearing, but yeah, it's really nice to be on a field or in a forest and see the beautiful environment changing. And my other hobbies connected to this is making photos. I have a nice digital camera. It's a small Fuji, so relatively easy to carry. And I tend to upload some of these pictures on my Instagram account. So yeah, this is somehow connected to my artistic nature, my artistic self. Yeah. So
It's great that you have that outlet through your dog, I guess, to get to venture out and then, release that extra bit of creativity that you need to release that you may not be getting in the day to day. But, I think it's exciting when I see those posts up on Instagram.
yeah, exactly.
Tibby, thank you so much for your time today. It's been great hearing about your journey and insights into your role at Graphisoft and how the products are developed.
Thanks, Nathan, for inviting me. It was a nice conversation. We should continue over a beer in Budapest, hopefully.
Look forward to having a beer with you again soon in Budapest, mate. And I look forward to hosting our next episode of Graphisoft Talk in the near future. And until then, keep learning.